So with Jamar Chase, I see the concern. Now you have Joe Burrow out for the season, and obviously this is going to limit his ceiling. This is not going to make Jamar Chase the fantasy asset that we consensus drafted second overall. And when I say consensus, I mean everybody besides like Nathan, because he was one of the only ones that really didn't. Even I was drafting Jamar Chase because I'm like, I feel like I have to. Hasn't paid off this season. Last game against Baltimore, 9.2 points, only had 2 catches. That is not like Jamar Chase-esque receiving level. And when you're looking at Browning's game log, who's going to be throwing the ball now, how many people have even heard of him before this week? This is really concerning. And so with Jamar Chase, though, I feel like enough value has been lost from this news and from his production this year that with his ceiling, I feel like you have to hold Jamar Chase.
You have to hold him. Definitely not a buy, but there is absolutely no one that is heavily investing in Jamar Chase with this Burrow news. There's no one out there in the market for Jamar Chase, so he's for sure not a sell. Like this is, if you're shipping off Jamar Chase, what are you getting in return? A low-end wide receiver too? Like I'm just not.
I'm just trying to think of a situation where somebody would actually be willing to pay for Jamar Chase, like pay Jamar Chase prices.
I see no scenario.
And Jamar Chase, the talent is fine. I mean, an 81st percentile against man coverage, 91st against press. He's going to continue to win routes. The question is going to be like, how good is the Bengals offense going to be? Joe Mixon has proved that like he really doesn't produce unless the Bengals offense is like clicking on all cylinders.
To me, this situation is pretty much identical to Garrett Wilson's, where he could offer probably a ceiling of 17, 18 points with a lot of targets because he is such a good wide receiver, but your ceiling is just massively capped with poor quarterback play. And sorry, Browning, I don't want to dog on you or anything, but that's just a fact of the matter when you're a backup quarterback that hasn't really played consistent. Like, we have no idea who he is, what he's going to be, and honestly, I mean, the Bengals just feel like they're out of playoff contention with Burrow out for this season. That's just that's the only reasonable conclusion that you can come with here. So I just don't see it.
And here's the other thing. Like, I still feel personally like Jamar Chase still has 25-point upside, no matter who the quarterback is, because of his yak ability.
Yeah.
And because, I mean, if a backup quarterback gets smart, they would throw the ball a lot to Jamar Chase, right? Like, so I feel like he still does have that upside based on the talent.
You would think that was Zach Wilson and Garrett Wilson.
Well, Zach Wilson's a special type of idiot. I can't think of another word. Like, it's just stupid. It was stupid with Jimmy G and Devontae Adams. Like, it just, sometimes those receivers don't, but I do feel like he still has that ceiling. So even if he gives you only 1 week of 20-point production and it's in the playoffs, that was worth it.
A hold.
That's why he's worth a hold.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Next guy.
Zay Flowers, next guy. What are we going to do with him? What are we going to do? Zay Flowers, last month, has not been very great. Only 6, 2, 12, and 8 points, respectively, and inconsistent targets, 7, 1, 6, and 4. Not the production that we were really expecting after a pretty solid start for a rookie wide receiver. He's 21st in targets on the season, which is fine. His target share is 20th as well, which is great. Target rate, not as great. His air yards and air yard share, it's all been okay. And I think that's what Zay Flowers is right now. He's just okay. I think the biggest question that you have to ask is, what is Flowers' outlook for the rest of the season with Mark Andrews likely out for the rest of the season? Because I think you're going to have two camps here. You're going to have people that invest in Flowers and are big on Flowers. You're going to have people that have seen Odell Beckham's production of recent and want to invest in him at really nice costs. To me, I would still bet on Zay Flowers because I just think overall, as a talent at this point in his career, is just better than Odell Beckham. Like, I don't think, to me, it's not really a question. Could I be wrong? Absolutely. But you're looking at the matchups as well. They got Los Angeles,
who Brandon Staley did say that their defense is not bad. So stop blaming their defense.
He lost it, man.
And he's not going to stop calling the defense.
He's feeling the heat. I cannot believe he hasn't been fired already. The
Chargers are stupid.
It's one of the crimes of the NFL.
He should have been fired last year.
It's terrible. Then they got the Rams on December 10th, the Jacksonville Jaguars, San Francisco, whose secondary is not that great, and then the Miami Dolphins as well. So
been better, but still not great.
Yeah,
for Miami.
I think overall that's a middle of the pack schedule. It's not really going to hurt any of the receivers in Baltimore. It's not going to super duper help them, except objectively the Los Angeles Chargers matchup. So for me, I'm going to say soft buy on Zay Flowers. I think a lot of people are low on his production and inconsistency over the last month, that it's not going to cost much to go and get him.
All right, this is interesting because I'm going to go opposite.
Yep.
I'm going to go sell for Zay Flowers because I think unless people were paying attention last week during the game, because Odell Beckham for the majority of the season has been completely ineffective. And I'm not going to bet that Odell Beckham is going to be that effective here going forward. I actually don't think that the Ravens passing game has been all that crazy this year, and I don't expect it to be going forward as well. So naturally,
you worried about the run game in the red zone?
A little bit, yeah.
I think that's fair, yeah.
And by default, you'd say, okay, well then Zay Flowers has to get some of that. And what I've seen from Zay Flowers over the course of the season is that Zay Flowers actually isn't super great at turning targets into receptions. And although that's been the case,
his yak ability is so good, though.
Oh my gosh, because he moves so well.
Yeah.
But again, with all that being said, I mean, you're looking at the last 4 games again. The narrative around Zay Flowers has still been that he's had a really, really good rookie season, which he has by depending on what standards you use. When I'm talking about starting or flexing a fantasy player, I wouldn't say he's had a really, really good season. But he's had a good enough season where at times he was absolutely startable in fantasy football. But you're looking at Zay Flowers and his whole body of work. He is a like mid wide receiver 3. And I think a lot of people, and this, I guess there's always conditional sells. Like there's always conditions to this. I think I would sell if people are looking at the Andrews injury and saying, okay, this is Zay Flowers time. Anytime, or Zay Flowers season, SZN. Anytime I see somebody say it's Zay Flowers season, they can have Zay Flowers because they obviously believe in Zay Flowers enough to where they think he's going to be producing, if they even believe he's going to be producing as a wide receiver 2, like I wouldn't ship him off. And there's a lot of guys in the wide receiver 2 range that I think I'd be comfortable selling for because their public perception or because their vibes have been better with the fantasy community this season. So like I'm looking at Zay Flowers and seeing how much I have to pay to get to Michael Pittman because I feel a lot better about Michael Pittman. I feel like people don't realize that Michael Pittman is a high-end wide receiver 2 right now. So I feel like people aren't realizing that. I even feel a little bit more comfortable with somebody like Devonta Smith still for the rest of the season. And I feel like there are a lot of people that are low on that. I just think there's enough buys in that range to where I'm comfortable if people are saying that Zay Flowers is, it's Zay Flowers season and it's his time. I really don't expect him to do much more than he has already this season. I think they're going to get a bunch of random. I mean, Isaiah Likely can fill some of that void, but I feel like outside of
Nelson Aguilar's been producing.
Exactly. But I think it's going to be somebody random. Like, I think some of the random guys will step up. And I think it was Odell last game. I don't expect that to continue for Odell. But that's, to me, why he's a little bit of a sell conditionally. Again, if people are still this low on Zay Flowers, then you just hold them, I think.
So you got a soft buy and a conditional sell. So if you want to mesh those together, just hold Zay Flowers, I guess. I guess that's the ultimate verdict.
That's the mesh answer, or you can pick your favorite argument. Because honestly, there's both sides of it. Because there is a chance that Zay Flowers, gets this target share now and actually produces at a very high level. I think there's an equal likely chance. I'm betting the other way, but I think it's probably 50-50.
Yeah. We'll see.
Saquon Barkley is going to be next on this list. And this is somebody that, if you have watched our recent playoff video, has some really bad matchups coming up. Really bad. And you're looking at the last game against the Commanders. He actually had 30 points, 2 receiving touchdowns in his last game. And he had 15 points, 14 points, 7 points, and 30 points. And I'm looking at the 30 points because he's 4th in snap share, he's 3rd in opportunity share, he's 6th in carries, he's 18th in targets, he's 5th in red zone touches. So all that to say, he's top 5 really an opportunity this year. And when you're looking at where he's produced, he's not an RB1. That, coupled with the fact that he has some really, really tough playoff matchups, and when we're in the playoffs, Patriots, Packers, Saints, Eagles, and Rams over the next 5 weeks.
Yeah. The Packers,
that is brutal.
Yeah.
That is brutal. Not to mention a bye the week before the playoffs. He hasn't even had his bye yet. There's not a single. He's only. Not even a touchdown under expect. There's everything is pointing for me to sell Saquon Barkley.
He, to me, is one of the bigger sells in fantasy right now.
I think
I completely agree.
And I think that the 30-point game gives you that leverage, and it gives you that narrative that you can push and be like, I'm going to sell you Saquon. You need him for the playoffs. I need a different part for my team. You make that swap, you're going to probably win.
And people who box score read in that game against Washington for the Giants, they're going to see DeVito, 3 touchdown passes. First of all, did you watch the touchdown passes? Because, it was like, even the great Zach Wilson would have been able to make those throws as screaming open as some of those guys were. I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe DeVito DeVito is better than Zach Wilson, but this is just something where I'm like, I'm totally overlooking the Washington game intentionally because we also know what Washington is. We know what they've been all season long. They, for some reason, are just the thorn in the Philadelphia Eagles side, and they make that a game every single year, twice a season, and then after that, past that, all the other games, like they are legitimately horrible, and Ron Rivera is miserably bad. Miserably bad. And yeah, I know he's like a CEO type of head coach, so he's not fully in charge of the defense. He's responsible as the head coach. That defense is abysmal. They have little to no upside. The one first-round corner that they invested in, they benched like 4 weeks into the season, and he's on the rotation, right? Emmanuel Forbes, like he's horrible right now. Their secondary, terrible. Absolutely terrible. That I think is more of a testament to how bad Washington is by allowing DeVito to throw 3 touchdown passes than really a testament to the Giants improving.
Yeah, I agree. He's a sell.
Yeah,
sell him as soon as you can.
Yep.
And then Tank Dell. To me, this I'm just gonna preface this one's simple for me. I'll give you a spoiler. Mine's hold.
Really?
Because of Stroud. Stroud is playing at such a high level. I mean, if he's even a little bit open downfield, Stroud is dropping it in the bucket.
Anytime we have a sample size of 2 weeks of a wide receiver in Houston's offense producing at a high level, we fall for the trap every single time, and I'm not falling for it again. Tank Dell is a sell, in my opinion. Nico Collins had a solid game, and yes, it's because of CJ Stroud. Noah Brown, who the 2 weeks before that went off, did not play in this last game. Tank Dell has been great. He's been completely fine. They've had good matchups. You're looking at the matchups for the last month of the season. They've got the Jaguars, the Broncos, who have played very good football. I think they've won like 4 or 5 straight.
Won 4 straight games.
The New York Jets secondary. Mm-hmm. Good luck. It's not like Stroud is now. I'm not trying to dog on Stroud at all. He's been amazing. He's been one of the historically amazing rookie quarterbacks in the history of the NFL. But I mean, he threw 3 interceptions against the Cardinals last week, and Tank Dell still produced at that level, which is great.
Right.
But at the same time, it's like you're looking at this schedule for the rest of the season. They got the Browns, the Jets, and the Broncos secondaries. And then the Jags, that's not an easy matchup. The Titans is never an easy matchup. As bad as they are every single year, Vrabel just makes them okay. So I don't love it. And it's not necessarily because of Tank Dell not having this upside to produce again. It's because of the inconsistency, man. And people, every time Tank Dell does this, there's like a cult out there that is just all over Tank Dell and thinks like he's the next Tyreek Hill and is just going to be this amazing long-term wide receiver in the NFL. And sure, maybe he can be. I'd love to see that happen for him. But realistically, this season, I don't see that being a consistent thing that I'm counting on every single week. I mean, Tank Dell, at least in Dynasty is different than Fantasy, but I mean, you just told me a little bit ago, he's like the wide receiver 16 in Dynasty.
He's
being valued right now.
He's the wide receiver 16 in Fantasy.
He's being valued right now as a mid to high end wide receiver 2 in Fantasy quite easily. And at that price, dude, I'm out. I'm out. Totally out.
So I'm going to say hold Tank Dell because
he's also 2 touchdowns over expected.
When I'm looking at Tank Dell this season, he has games of 20 points, 25 points, 29 points, 18 points, and 28 points.
Yeah, it's the ceiling.
But his last 3 games, 29, 18, and 28. Yes, Tank Dell in Dynasty, he's 24. I get it. But at the same time, when I see somebody that's producing like this late in the season, and I see somebody that has a 30-point ceiling, I probably would, at that point, I would just take my shot and flex him.
What are the points he scores when he doesn't score a touchdown this season?
6, 8, 3, and 6.
So he's
fairly touchdown dependent.
You could get Gabe Davis plus a lot if you sold Tank Dell.
See, I think,
and that's a better situation.
I think the lot would have to be more valuable than Gabe Davis for me to do that.
Right.
So.
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm saying. Like, Gabe Davis would essentially be a throw-in in a deal if you were moving off of Tank Dell. And to me, that's like the same outlook for the rest of the year.
I'd be curious to see where Cleveland and Tennessee's defenses rank from a passing game standpoint.
Cleveland?
Yeah.
One of the better ones.
You're right.
Let me pull it up.
That is the playoff week.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, if you can get high-end wide receiver 2 prices for Tank Dell, then I'm fine selling him.
So the Jets are first in the league right now. This is according to PFF.
Yeah,
Jets
that's what
are
I wanted
first.
to know. Okay.
Jags are fourth.
Okay.
The
Broncos?
Browns are 13th.
Okay.
The Broncos are way down the list at 28th because of how historically bad they were
Yes.
for the first 6 to 8
The
weeks
Titans
of the
is
season.
what I'm interested in.
The Titans are, where are you at, Titans? 27th.
So I think I'd still
So
lean,
that's 2 matchups.
I'd still lean hold if you're going to get the Titans in that second week of the fantasy playoffs. If he puts up 25 that game, like he's winning you a week. So,
How did he do it against the Titans last time they played?
Do you know, or are you just asking me?
I'm asking you.
Have they played Tennessee?
They
haven't played Tennessee.
Oh, they haven't played him yet.
No.
Oh, that's interesting.
So it's really interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, again, if you're getting it depends on who you're getting. If you're selling them for ridiculous prices, of course.
He's got to be going for ridiculous prices right now. Tell us what you guys think in the comments about this one. This is something that, we can both be on the fence on, both have our own opinions on. But, I mean, at the end of the day, this is completely dependent on what deal you're getting for Tank Dell. And if the price is right, man, there's obviously situations where it's worth buying Tank Dell if someone's ridiculously low on him and trying to sell him at a discount for some terrible reason. I mean, there's some ridiculous leagues out there. So I'm leaning sell in general.
All right. Our next guy here is going to be DJ Moore. DJ Moore keeps popping up on this list, and I'm still going to say I do not like DJ Moore. I do not want to. Still, the targets are not really above 6 or 7 every game. He is touchdown dependent for the most part. He didn't have touchdowns in either of the 3 games before Fields came back, and he had 10 points or less. Yeah. And then he came back. He got a touchdown, and he had 22 points.
Yeah.
I'm selling Justin Fields. I don't know about you.
Yeah, it is interesting to note that DJ Moore with Justin Fields has averaged 20 points per game versus without him, he's averaged 10 points per game. So that's cut in half. That production's cut in half. But again, you're looking at him producing at an insane rate against the Washington Commanders. And outside of that, he's been a good wide receiver. He really has. I wouldn't go any further than saying just hold DJ Moore, but with the rushing upside that Fields didn't have, and this is going to be the biggest point for me to probably still lean selling DJ Moore, is because they're finally running Fields again, which is what he's best at because he's a running back playing quarterback. And to me, that's something that they refused to do at the first half of the season because the Bears front office was like, hey, make Justin Fields throw the ball more. We need a reason to keep him here. And Eberflus was like, okay, cool. This is what it looks like.
Yeah, exactly.
Now he's running at 100 rushing yards against Detroit. He's a great threat in the running game, and that hurts every receiver.
And by the way, Justin Fields, because Chicago, this one we'll get so much crap for because Chicago fans are the obnoxious and loudest fans in the league.
Yeah. Yep.
But we would hold Justin Fields. I mean, very, and maybe even buy if there are people that are low on him because his rushing upside's looking really good.
Yeah,
but with DJ Moore, no. DJ Moore's had the best year of his career in my opinion, but I don't think the 20 points is sustainable. I think you'll have people treating it like that.
Yeah. And Puka Nacua is going to be the biggest question here. How many people do you think are going to be trying to invest in Puka Nacua with the new Cooper Kupp news, him being out for the rest of the game against Seattle and future weeks being in question as well? Do you think personally that there's going to be a lot of people that are willing to overpay for Puka Nacua, who's currently a wide receiver 1 in fantasy football, who has a ridiculous amount of target volume with Matthew Stafford? Do you think it's a big enough where you're willing to sell him for players with higher upside, or are you just sticking with Puka Nacua and holding them?
I'm not only going to hold Puka Nacua, I'm going to buy Puka Nacua. You saw what Puka did when it was just him and Stafford.
Bold. Yeah, I like it.
You saw. Why would I bet against that?
Yep.
Cooper Kupp went out one game and he had 18 points again.
Yeah.
Buy him. Guys, there's a lot of people that are like, yeah, Puka's not doing super well now because they had that 3 or 4 week. Buy him then. It's worth it. The upside is crazy. The upside is league winning. The schedule: Cardinals, Browns, Ravens, Commanders, and Saints. It's not the best schedule.
So the Commanders rank 17th in coverage.
Okay.
You got the Cardinals at 25th.
Okay.
And then you've got the Saints 7th, Jags, or Baltimore Ravens 2nd, and the Browns 13th.
The Saints and the Ravens are the one I'm kind of worried about. Mm-hmm. The Saints, especially being in that playoff week.
Yeah.
I don't care. It didn't matter early in the season. It didn't matter against the 49ers when everybody told us that we were stupid for having him.
He's not touchdown dependent. This schedule is just as questionable as Tank Dell's, but he's already proven literally so many games this season that he doesn't require touchdowns.
That's one that, if I could move Tank Dell and get Puka and something else, I would do that.
I'm not kidding. I think it's possible.
I would do that all day. There's no question. I would do that. I might. Because that's the kind of deal I would make for Tank Dell.
Yep.
And I'm confident enough in Puka as a buy.
Yeah.
So, all right, do us a huge favor, subscribe, and drop a like on this video. Appreciate you guys watching. Thanks for joining us today. We'll see you later.